Good morning. This is Bill from Curious Cars and also Auto House. And look at this. I got birds going insane. They're all around me, up above, looking at me, getting ready to swoop down. I am not ready for them. I'm going to start bringing a tennis racket here if I survive this one. Man, they are going ape shit. They seem to be dispersing. Anyway, sorry about that. So Bill from Curious Cars / Auto House of Naples. Again, sorry for the confusion on that one, but it is what the hell it is. Why do I have cigarettes? You gotta put these things out, it turns out. Anyway, where the hell am I? I'm full of coronavirus whiskey this morning because my live-in lady friend, Tracy, claims that she has it, which frankly she doesn't. But I took that as an excuse to start taking more whiskey. And here I am this morning in the driveway with a 1964 Triumph TR4. Obviously a very interesting little British car. I drove this here this morning on the interstate. Terrifying in theory, but it actually worked out quite well, and we'll get into all of that. What can I tell you? Give you any kind of updates. I've got a new deal coming where I think I might get to do some reviews on some interesting cars. I'm working on that. We'll see where that goes. And otherwise, things are plugging along pretty nicely. The weather, it was nice and chilly this morning. If chilly is 65 degrees for Naples, but not chilly enough to make me happy, although I'm pleased the humidity levels are a little bit low. And that's not such a bad thing. But anyway, this is going to be a shorter video, I promise. I really promise this time. I'm not going to ramble on about politics, about things that really piss me off, like people who don't use cruise control on the highway. That makes me want to go homicidal. I've been doing a lot of road trips lately to procure cars, and I'll pass someone set at 80 or 81 miles an hour. 30 seconds later, they pass me. 30 seconds after that, I pass them. 30 seconds after that, they're riding in my blind spot, and I haven't changed from 81 miles an hour. They're varying their friggin' speed for no good reason at all, and it just becomes intensely irritating. Really, really irritating, to the point that I think people who do that, look at the size of this thing. What is that, a bald eagle? It's very majestic, but my God, could that rip your eyeballs out if it wanted to. Anyway, where the hell was I? Yeah, cruise control people. A side of the road summarily executed, because I think that is one of the most offensive things anyone can do. Let me carry on. So, Triumph is an interesting car company. It was actually started as a bicycle company in the late 19th century by a German, Siegfried Bettmann. He came over from Nuremberg to England, and in Coventry he started importing European bicycles and selling them, and he had some pretty good success doing that. And then he took on another German partner, and they started building these bicycles in Coventry and selling them in England, and again, doing quite well. That progressed into motorcycles, which frankly Triumph is probably the most famous for. I mean, if I'm going to be perfectly frank, Triumph cars are fantastic and they're interesting and all of that stuff, but the real history of Triumph, I think, lies with the motorcycles. That is where they had the most success and the most storied time with their, products. But anyway, long story short, they started selling these motorcycles. They really won the day when World War I came along and they started supplying them to the British Army. That really helped them out. So all of a sudden they had gobs of money. Then they decided to start building cars in the late 1920s. One of the managers said, "Man, you got to buy out this old Dawson car company." That was a absolute blip in the dust of nothing. Dawson, they came out with one car and died. So Triumph bought their headquarters, their factory, and they started building a few pre-war cars. They didn't think they could compete with the mass-produced stuff, so they started selling higher-end stuff, and it went, pretty well for a time. And then, as is usual with the British car company, ended up going nowhere, and they ended up in receivership. And by the time World War II rolled along, they were broke, and then they were bombed to smithereens, so they had a crap time of things. After the war, Standard Motor Company bought them. Oh, I should have pointed out that at a certain point, when they went into receivership before World War II, the motorcycle division and car division were split up, and the bike and motorcycle thing was sold off to another guy and went on its own way. And the Triumph Motor Company for cars started doing its thing. But anyway, after the war, Standard Motor Company bought Triumph Motor Company and decided to come up with some fun stuff. Didn't build any of the pre-war models. Aluminum was cheap because they were scrapping all of these old Spitfires and airplanes. So, and in fact, sheet metal was much more expensive. So they built a Triumph Roadster out of aluminum. Very interesting car. Not hugely successful, but kind of cool. That led to the development of some other cars, which led to the development of a TR series. And that was the birth of this. The TR was originally sort of a low door, side curtained, almost an MGTD competitor, if you will. And it fared very, very well. People bought it. They liked it. It wasn't necessarily the best handling or best quality control car in the world, but it was pretty cool. And then some other people got involved with it who helped it become much, much better. And finally, the TR3, the first gen of that TR series, it started with the TR2. The original TR1 was just kind of a concept car. It molded its way into this, the TR4, and it was designed by an Italian. So I love this. You've got a company started by Germans, and then one of their most popular models is made by the Italians. You got to love British cars. Anyway, Giovanni Michelotti, a guy who designed a lot of Ferraris and Alfas, and he's kind of the best designer most of us have probably never heard of. He penned this Triumph TR4, and it became absolutely beautiful and iconic. I mean, that big front end with the round lamps, the bumperettes, the slat grille, very, very handsome, and also reminiscent of 50s Ferraris because, of course, it's designed by the same guy. You remember that Ferrari from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. If you look at the lines of this car, there's a distinct similarity, and that's because it was designed by the same guy. Anyway, the TR4 proved to be very successful. In fact, Triumph became much more of a name than Standard. So Standard Motor Company, the car company that bought Triumph, ended up using the Triumph name on essentially all of their stuff. I think by 1963, we had seen the last of the Standard cars. And also in 1963, Triumph Motor Company was bought by British Leyland. And the rest is history. I'm not going to get into the history of British Leyland and the horrors and all of that sort of stuff. You can Google that yourself. But British Leyland, absolute nightmare. Fascinating history. This particular Triumph is very interesting. Supposedly, and again, you have to, every time you buy a collector car, you have to take the stories with a grain of salt because you don't really know. People make crap up. But I will say that the condition and drive of this car does fit the facts. Apparently, a decade or so ago, this thing was an 8,000-mile barn find that had sat for many, many years after being put away. It's believable in the sense that these are not the kind of cars people put a lot of miles on. They were not daily driving, go-to-work beaters where you sip your Dunkin' Donuts and coffee and, have a good time with things. You basically drove them on weekends. So, okay, maybe. I'm only going to say maybe. I'm certainly not going to claim it in the sense that I'd have to defend it in a court of law. But supposedly it was an 8,000-mile car that got a mild restoration. They painted it. They got the motor running right. They, went through the tank, the this, the that, the other. And then it was sold to the guy that we got it from. I got it from a guy in North Carolina who had driven it for a few years, and here it is today. Again, this is the TR4. It was replaced by the 4A, which people say added independent rear suspension, which is true, but only at about 75% of TR4As. But anyway, that's a side thing. This has the silver painted wire rims with the chrome knockoffs that I love. They're true knockoffs that you have to use a little hammer on to, spin off so you can get off the tire. I think that's cool as shit. It has front disc brakes. definitely. And I don't, God forgive me, my research is crap. I don't believe this car came with front discs. I think those were added, but somebody in the comment section will probably correct me. I also think these tires are a little bit larger than what it came with, because from what I understand, the correct tire size for a Triumph is like some, Wellington series English metric thing that you could never find if you wanted to. So look at the beautiful overhang on those headlights. God, that is really cool. It's finished in a very attractive Smurf blue color. Reminds me of that that Miata that came in the same color. And of course, the Miata was inspired by cars like this. Now, after having driven this car, I've got to say that it is head and shoulders above some of its competition, like the MGB. I've had a couple of MGBs. Man, they don't even come close to the way this car drives. When I got here this morning on the highway, I was running 75 miles an hour. All my terrors and fears of driving this car home were unfounded. It was perfect mechanically, didn't miss a beat, smooth as hell on the interstate, very, very surprising and not what I expected at all. So very, very cool in that regard. You see this thing has a luggage rack, pretty neat. I do like the way they've done with the Triumph badge here, that it's individual letters. That looks very fancy to me, kind of the way they do it in modern cars. There's the TR4 logo. You've got all those Lucas lamps in the back, little finny looking things with the chrome, truly aluminum strips down the top, beauty lines. Love the exposed hinges. Here inside the trunk, the car came with two tops. It had one white top affixed and another, what looked to me like a new top that was never used for like 20 years. This guy here, it still had the protective paper over the plexi, whatever the hell it is, the plastic window. But I hated both white tops. I don't like white tops on this car, so I ordered a black one from Moss Motors, had it professionally installed, and it looks a lot better to me. But anyway, whoever buys this thing gets all three tops. Also has this original TR4 workshop manual, which is quite nice. Very ingenious system for the prop rod. When you lift it up, it clicks into place. Lift it up again, and it lets you set it down. That seems very advanced to me for the British at the time. Let's open the hood. The sun's going to get in the way and start screwing things up for us. Excuse me. All right, so under here you've got roughly a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder engine, thus the TR4. This car actually had tremendous racing success when it came out. It was very popular in rallies. It won quite a few events at Sebring, which made me quite happy. That's our home track. Have a lot of fun there. And it's a terrific little engine. Came from a Ferguson tractor. And, a lot of Triumph guys like to downplay that. They're the farm tractor roots of the engine in their TR4. I guess I can't really blame them. But I think it's something to celebrate because it used what's called a wet sleeve system. And what that means is that the cylinder walls are replaceable. You can actually remove the old cylinder walls and put in new cylinder walls whenever they wear out, which essentially makes the engine last for as long as you ever want to use it. I mean, you could theoretically put 1 million miles on one of these things if you replace the cylinder walls every so often. So, here's the thing about farm tractors is they're made to be serviceable and durable. And I think that's terrific. I think it's a great lineage for the car, and I don't mind it at all. I think it's cool as hell. In America, in this generation, it had these 2 Stromberg carburetors. I think they work great. Later generations, Europe and around the world had a horrible Lucas fuel injection system that everybody hated. So for once, America made out by keeping the carburetors. They kept those here. Historically, these cars, like colder climates, like England or Germany, they don't do quite well in the heat. So I don't know how well this is going to do here in the United States, or here in Florida. I think if I were going to own and drive it here, I would replace that radiator with something a little bit bigger. But for the moment, it runs very, very cool and nice, and I'm just glad it isn't July. Weirdly, the car has been reliable as well. Not what I was expecting. Love the little power hump in the hood as well. Okay, what I'm going to do now is pause. Earlier this morning, I had the soft top up, so I'm going to pause here so you guys can see how it looks with the top up and in place. All right, so here it is with the soft top up and in place. It's called the Surrey top, if you go by old Triumph lingo or old British lingo. This one is new to the car in black. It came in with a very wide. It came in actually with 2 tops, this car. So this car goes with 3 tops, which is weird, but it is what it is. Had a white one, and I just didn't like the look of it. So we put a black one on, had it professionally installed, and it looks terrific on the car, I believe. Contrasts with that blue, to me, a little bit more nicely than the white did. But since all the tops will go with the car, you can make that decision for yourself. But anyway, nothing to see other than perfect new top installed and looking good on the car. So I'm going to take that down again and see if we can't go for a ride. Okay, we're back. And weirdly, and I do mean weirdly, I have to say that the driving has been the best part of this car, with some exception. When I finally got it ready, we ordered a new seal for the drive shaft, tail shaft or something. Ulf, the German, the guy who was attacked by a duck, was dying to take it for a spin, so he did, and drove around. Of course, I got a call, the British car call, a few minutes later saying he was on the side of the road, and of course that turned out to be the fuel pump. So a fuel pump got ordered, got put in, and now it's back to being what it should be. And now, having driven it, I am stunned, absolutely stunned at how oddly reliable and nice this car feels and drives. And you don't have to take my word for it. Let's just do it. Never even did get into the interior, by the way. One thing that I think is brilliant is you saw the soft top was up before. The whole frame of that top gets stored behind this stuff here and disappears entirely. Very, very cool. Also has essentially a little jump seat. So if you want to stuff your Canadians back there, I don't know if they're going to be chipper or not, but they can go back there. And certainly a couple little bratty kids, and they're close enough where you can give them a smack if you need to. So a great little utilitarian thing that you're just not going to get in an MGB or anything like it. It's a really neat system, and I love how nice and proper that top stows under that thing. These Triumphs have a real feel of quality and sort of durability and sturdiness to them that I just don't feel in other microscopic British cars. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the German lineage that caused that. I also love that banjo sprung steering wheel. Very, very cool. And obviously this is not the original seat stuff, but whoever put it on picked very nicely. Love the brown, love the way it contrasts with the blue, and all very handsome. So, you know, just nice stuff. Hop in. All right, there you see those great Jaeger gauges. You've got your tack here. These are your indicators. This is your ignition warning if it's running too low. You've got your miles per hour there. You've got your rheostat for the dimming, which works bizarrely. You also have airflow. You can see I'm opening up a vent. These were all big deals back in '64, so I can get fresh air inside. That's nice. More little Jaeger gauges. You've got your temp, you've got your oil pressure, your fuel level, and your ammeter, which was what predated voltmeters, although the guy did also install a voltmeter down there, which isn't connected for some reason. Here you've got your headlights. I think this was supposed to be windshield washers, but now the switch is missing. Actually, that's probably your windshield wipers itself. You've got your ignition switch, your choke, and this is ridiculous. I actually played with this before I realized, and I'm not sure, but I think this might be. No, I don't know. Maybe it isn't fake. I thought it might have been fake, like the way the those old buildings in the Wild West movies are, just a storefront. But no, it's just not connected. But yeah, the way that turns on, that probably is real. Okay, don't mind me. I'm having a meltdown from the whiskey. This thing is, I think that that changes the airflow for the fresh air, the heater. That's your fan for the heater. And I don't remember what the hell that switch is. Here in the fascia, you've got your glove box. Nice stuff. There's a place to put your 357 or your 9mm, or you'd even fit a little mini machine gun in there, like a Mac 10. Go in there, no problem. I don't think the wood dash is original. I think you could get those on the TR4 A's, but not the TR4s. But from what I understand, it's a pretty popular upgrade, so somebody probably stuffed a wood dash in there. One thing I find marginally irritating is when I'm turning the wheel, it incurs into the shifter sometimes, and when I first started driving it, that annoyed me until I got used to it and just avoided doing it. But I don't know, for a company started by Germans, that sure seems like British engineering to me. Let's fire this thing up. It has seat belts, but why bother? I do like this little, you know, square rear view mirror, kind of neat. It's got sun visors that I'm not going to pull down because they might break, but they look like they're in pretty good shape. Steering wheel is leather wrapped, very, very thin, pencil thin, the way I like it, and that feels very nice. I have to say, this is one of the best drivers that I've been in. And I know some guys use the word driver as a way to say, you know, the car's a piece of shit. It's a driver, it's not concours. When I say this car's a driver, I mean it wants to drive. It's a joy to actually get in, fire up, and move down the road in. I mean, it is one of the best driving old British cars I've ever been in. And God knows I've been in quite a few of these old turds, so very, very impressive. Like the way the hood looks from up here, the chrome strips or aluminum strips down the fenders, the big power bulge, probably meant more for the British side of things, being on the right. But anyway, just love it. Dash is in good shape too, that's probably been replaced. Now bear with me because I'm going to be cross-shifting here, but see if we can do this. I mean, this is just so much fun. This is actually the first time I've driven it with the top down. I took it home last night with the top up. And this is much more of an experience. It's a 4-speed manual, synchro mesh on all 4 gears, all 4 forward gears, which is nice. Don't have to double clutch. It drives very modern. The steering is fantastic. It's so tight, nicely centered, responsive. You know, a very precise car. I could see why these were used in SCCA racing. I feel like I should have a pipe and a smoking jacket with elbow patches and, you know, look down my nose at people and things and really enjoy it. But I mean, my God, what a true sports car this is, in the very classic sense. Small, nimble, responsive, and very, very fun to take on a cruise. Wish we had a big country road to go on instead of our boring drive to work. The gearbox feels fantastic. You know, very easy to find the gears and has a lovely click to it that I wasn't expecting. Maybe it's part of that farm tractor thing, but man, does it feel nice. I'm only at about half throttle. There's no reason to, you know, harshly, oh God, I didn't clutch hard enough there. You can't find it, grind it. Try not to do that again. Let me do that again so that you know the 3/4 shift doesn't do that unless you're a retard like me. Alright, so there's third. Now I'm going to clutch properly. Yeah, it's absolutely fine, so that's just up to dumb driving. You know, the way it goes down the road, excuse me, it's just terrific. You really enjoy driving this car. So look, there it is, 1964 Triumph TR4. I'm going to end this video not quite here, but I'm going to end the, you know, my annoying spoken part here. If you have an interest in this thing, it's at Auto House of Naples on the web at autohousenaples.com, or you can call them at 239-263-8500. Nice guys. I'm gonna then stop the video and I'm gonna take it up again. God help me, I'm gonna get back on the interstate so you can, you know, you don't have to think I'm full of shit about the way it drives there. I do think the speedo is off, probably because of those bigger tires. I used a GPS on my phone to determine what 70 was, and it was indicating a little over 80 in this thing. So anyway, we'll pick it up again in a couple seconds when I get on the interstate. Otherwise, thanks for having a look. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you with the next one. Take care.